238% increase in conversion. How can you achieve similar amazing increase in website sales and website leads and website subscriptions? That is what you are going to learn about tonight. In order for you to achieve such results, you have to do two things. You have to really be able to go beyond the surface knowledge of your customers into digging deeper into the customer. That's the first thing that you have to do. Number two, you have to translate that knowledge into your website design and your website copy. We are going to do something really good in today's webinar. We are going to go through several case studies. And with each one of these case studies, you'll see some amazing results. But beyond that, we will go through the theory of these case studies, the knowledge that impacted us to optimize a particular web page in a particular way. With that, thank you for attending a new webinar from Invest. We are coming to you from our studios in Istanbul, Turkey. Ayat, thank you for joining us. We have an exciting webinar for our audience today. How many case studies are we going to be covering in this webinar?
We're looking at 5 different case studies, anywhere from a 17% increase to a 238% increase.
Very incredible results. So before we get started, we want to invite everybody to join the conversation. They can use Twitter to tweet at us, the hashtag InvestCRO. You can tweet at us at Invest. And for those who are listening to the webinar live, you can definitely use the Q&A chat feature in the GoToWebinar to respond to our staff members. As you can see, we have about close to 10 staff members who are actually with us in the studio recording this webinar. So with that, why don't we jump right away into the first case study? And I think this is a 238% increase in conversion. So very exciting. If you want to get us started, give us some background.
All right, so we're looking at a key provider of business collaboration tools and global connectivity. What I mean by that is anything, if you think of Citrix, GoToMeeting, WebEx, this is the type of company. It provides those types of solutions.
So competes with some of those big name companies. Actually, I think in terms of the Fortune 500 companies, they actually provide services to many of these larger companies.
Right, to Expedia, to SAP, to many companies. So definitely they are one of those top providers. Okay. So what we were seeing is we were actually optimizing their landing page. We noticed on their landing page, as you can see, that the image was a little bit obscure. In general, the landing page lacked a little bit of personalization. There wasn't an appeal to the different personas that were coming to the website. They're coming with different needs, different questions, different motivations, and certainly we felt that they weren't being met through the copy and through the overall design.
I have to stop you, and I'm looking at the image that they have, and just throws me off. I don't really understand how this image relates to collaboration tools. I don't even understand how it relates to anything to do with an office setting. What was the designer trying to communicate over here?
They were trying to communicate that you can go anywhere, and you can be on a business trip, and you can be in the middle of the desert, yet you can still use their business tools.
So it's one of those things where I think the designer was a little too smart for his or her own good. So how were they driving traffic to this page?
So a lot of their visitors are coming through PPC, through different ads and coming to the actual website or to the actual landing page.
Okay, and suffering from low conversion rates.
Low conversion rates and a very high bounce rate. So the initial design wasn't doing it for those visitors once they were arriving.
Okay, so what was the hypothesis that we've created for this particular test?
The hypothesis, by addressing personas through targeted imagery and organized content, conversions will increase.
And I think that's the topic that we are going to be talking quite a bit about in this webinar. Personas, how do you first create them for your website or your business? And then how do you actually address them? So we're jumping into a case study where we're talking about addressing the personas for a particular website, and we'll see the impact on conversion rates. So with that, why don't you take us through the different images that we've had for the different variations, the challengers for the control.
So the first image, as you can see, Khaled, we changed the image to have a person, number one, appealing to that caring persona. And then at the same time, the person seems like a business individual, cell phone in hand, has a laptop, smartphone, obviously they're connected. Mm-hmm. So it's giving them that sense that they're on the go, they're in an airport, and yet they have access to the tools. The other thing that we did was we made sure that the copy for this, because the original landing page, it was long copy, so we just had short copy for this particular page. We also wanted to make sure that the image area, we use that image area to add more benefits, to drive more of the message to those actual personas. What was going to actually impact them? What are they looking for? What are their motivations? What are their questions? We're answering those questions through the copy that we provided.
Very good. So not only do we have the benefits on the side, but we're also added some of these benefits on the main image, the hero image for the page. So that's the first variation. The second variation?
The second variation, what we did was we actually took a similar image, and we have the copy on the image actually, and similar headline and design. However, we kept the long copy, but we included many calls to action throughout the long copy. So we wanted to make sure that we were hitting, that visitor if they were going through that copy over and over again.
So for our webinar attendees, we've just opened up the polling, and it is their chance to vote actually and select which one of these designs increase conversion rates. If you are watching this webinar on the YouTube channel, that means you've missed the live airing of the webinar. However, you can make up for it. So make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We put the YouTube videos every couple of weeks. I've actually just finished recording a series of videos on multivariate testing. Ayat will be recording a whole bunch of series in the next few weeks. So this is something that we're working on. And we see the voting. So, well, you know the real answer. I know one of them increased conversion rates by 238%. And let's get some of the answers. And I see that about 60% of our webinar attendees are voting for variation 1. The other 40% are voting for variation 2. And the winner is?
With a 238.5 increase in website conversion, it's variation 1.
Variation 1. So 60% of the webinar attendees got that right, 238%. Now, this is actually people subscribing to the service. Yes. 238%. That's almost tripled the subscriptions. Very, very, very impressive. So with that, we talked a little bit in the theory about personas and adapting the design for the personas. What are personas? Take us through some information on that.
So personas are models, examples, and archetypes that humanize and individualize a specific target market. They are hypothetical individuals who represent target consumers. So Khaled, just to explain to our attendees or our listeners, let's just take an example like a company such as Best Buy, for instance. They have different market segments. They have a market segment of females between the ages of 39 to 45, the soccer mom, exactly. They're middle to upper class income. They're not very tech savvy. This is a target segment that they have. Mm-hmm. What they did was they took this target segment and they created Jill. She is a mom of 3 kids. She drives a minivan. She has, interests of watching different films.
She lives in Farmington, Michigan. She went to such and such university. I forgot. They actually have all this information.
Exactly. So again, it made this target market into an actual person that you can anticipate what are they going to be looking for and what are they going to be wondering, what are their motivations and so on. Okay. So, that's in a nutshell what personas is all about.
Okay, and I think the concept of personas is not necessarily a new one, but it's rather an old concept. But when we talk about personas, we talk about temperaments. If you want to kind of also explain that concept to our webinar attendees.
So again, you have different temperaments. You have, people that when they're shopping, they're quite logical. They think about the purchase. They're wondering who are they. They're digging for information. They want to know more. Then you have your impulsive shopper, credit card in hand, ready to make the purchase.
That's me. That's definitely me.
Right. They're 35% of the market, actually.
35% of the population are the impulsives.
Impulsive shoppers.
Okay. That makes me feel better about myself. Okay.
You have then 15% that represent more of the caring persona. They are looking for social proof. Mm-hmm. Who else is purchasing this? Are there testimonials that are vouching for this service or for this product? Mm-hmm. And then you have 5% that actually represent the aggressive. What's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this particular product or service? So considering when you're coming up with these personas, you're also giving each of your personas specific temperaments based on how they will move forward in a purchase on your website.
So let's go back through the numbers quickly. So we said 45% is for which temperaments? The 45%?
Logical.
For the logical temperaments, 35% the impulsive. I surf the web and with my credit card in hand, and I also regret my purchase decisions very quickly. So that's impulsive both ways. 15% is for the caring type persona, and 5% is for the aggressive type persona. But or the temperaments. A person doesn't have one temperament, correct? A person changes. I mean, yes, I am impulsive, but sometimes I am logical. Sometimes I find myself changing, and I guess this applies to everybody who's watching the webinar, or attending the webinar.
Certainly, you're not just one single way. However, these temperaments just in general describe the how you're going to be dealing with certain purchases. A lot of times, if it's a more pricey purchase, you'll find people tend to be a little bit more logical than impulsive if they're generally impulsive in their purchasing.
Yes.
Generally, but some people still will purchase a $45,000 car.
It happens, every now and then. So the concept of personas is not a new concept. It's something that has been there for thousands of years, dare I say?
For thousands of years, really,
Okay.
dating all the way, BC, 325 BC from Aristotle's time, where really just segmenting the population, looking at the population and identifying different types of people. However, as the years went on, philosophers looked at this concept again and modified it more and more to really segment the market differently until the 1950s, where you have David Kinsey, who actually came up with different types, and again relating them more to marketing, relating to the purchase process and so forth.
So that's kind of, I think the work and personas of David Kiersey definitely helped a lot kind of crystallize the concept of personas. But even in the 1920s as well, they were discussed. I think in the 1980s, that's when the concept of personas was actually taken into software and software development, and how do you develop software. And now we're talking about websites to appeal to different types of personas. And really, when you start thinking about personas as you're developing your website or your software or your application or any marketing material, it has a direct impact on the type of product that you're going to put out.
Right, exactly. And I think, Khaled, you also have to take into account the web and how it's changing, and social media. This is actually impacting, personas, and I think they're going to be modified more and more with the way that people interact with purchases and surfing online overall.
Very good. So with that, why don't you take us through why did this particular variation win? Number one, why did it win? What was in it that drove subscriptions for this particular software by 238% up?
So what we're seeing is, again, the image changed. So that appeals to that caring persona. They're looking for, a familiar face. It's a business individual just like them. So again, it's relatable information. The language that was in, especially the language, because we didn't change any of the language that was on the actual landing page before, but we added certain language on the actual image. Benefits, driving, telling them why you're going to want to actually purchase this.
And that I would assume appeals to the impulsive type persona, to the aggressive type persona. Right away, you're giving me something really quickly.
Exactly, great information. And in the headline, it solved a problem for the visitor. For that, for many of the different persona types, they're looking at that and it's solving their problem and helping them move forward with the
Now,
purchase.
the same changes, we could have, and I'll ask a tough question, we could have attributed them to other types of the conversion factor. I mean, we have trust and confidence, we have incentives, we have FUDs, and maybe at least with some of these changes we could have attributed to other factors. But why are you attributing them to personas? Do personas play an important role? Is one of the first elements that you want to look at? What are the thought process there?
Now, when I'm optimizing a website, I don't necessarily need personas. I can say there are these issues with this site that need to be changed in order for it to be optimized and for me to improve this landing page or this website. However, with personas, you're crystallizing it. You're targeting the message more. You're making sure you address those. Remember the motivations that those target market visitors have. I have that information. I've collected it. I know what they need. I've already armed myself with that information. All I'm doing is putting it on the page in order to address their questions.
So like, with typical conversion framework factors, it really helps you look at the page and evaluate it. Personas help you take it to that next level. Higher crystallization, higher focus on your target market, giving that visitor greater voice into your website design. So with that, it seems that we're going to jump into our second case study. Quick pop quiz. You want to give us some background on this as we're looking at it?
So this is a website that actually personalized different items. They're a printing website, so they would print logos and different things on all sorts of different products. So what you see in the first design is there's a little bit of a description of the actual category page level. There's a category page. Then it has all of the different products listed in kind of just a list format, and one product per line. The second variation there is a banner that talks about the low prices and the savings and so forth. And then we changed, what we did was the actual title of the page is changed to most popular padfolios. And then it's grid format. So there are 4 products per line in the second design.
So this is a category page that we are looking at. So as we open this poll to our webinar attendees, for those of you who are watching the webinar live, this is your chance. There's a poll that just opened, so go ahead and vote. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, that means you've missed the live airing of the webinar. We come to you with these webinars now. We're starting to put them basically on weekly basis. We have an amazing lineup of some of the greatest industry experts. Stefan Spencer is going to be with us. We have Linda Bustos from Elastic Path. Lots and lots of great speakers who are going to be joining us on these webinars. Also, as people are voting, special thanks goes to our supporters, to the partners who make these webinars possible. Special thanks goes to 3M, the Special Olympics, and Discovery. With that, people are voting, and I see about 80% of our webinar attendees are choosing to go with design 2.
And they're actually right. So we have a 17.4% increase in website conversion on design 2.
Nice. So 238% for the first case study, 17% increase in conversions on the second case study. Really, really nicely. So I understand the importance of personas. I understand that, okay, well, now it's translating market segment information into an actual person that I can think of, humanizing that data. How do I begin the process of creating personas? It seems as a concept really nice, but how do you begin that process?
So it's a challenging process. Of course, you have to collect a lot of data. What you're trying to do really is collect that voice of the customer. Really, and that happens through surveys. That can happen through surveys on your website, post-purchase surveys. You can look at, doing some sort of a zip code analysis, look at demographical data of the different, segments of the market that are coming and purchasing from your website. Again, you can look at look at your competition, do an analysis of them. All of this, track customer representative feedback. What are they saying? What are the common questions and the motivations for the visitors? All those types of activities are going to give you a good sense of who your market is and what the different segments of your market are. And then from there, you can actually take each segment and create, a persona with motivations, with fears, uncertainties, and doubts. With certain questions, with an angle that the value proposition is going to appeal to them differently from a different segment. That way, you can really personalize the experience.
So it's not changing the value proposition per persona, but rather crafting the value proposition where you are thinking about these different personas. Right. That will be challenging, because if I think about a single landing page or a single page on my website and I want to think about these personas, it's not necessarily an easy thing, correct? But I guess based on the type of persona, some personas scroll all the way, some personas read just the top section. That's the way you do it?
Right. So you have to look at the page, evaluate it, and test. Now, the way that I crystallize my personas even more is by taking a hypothesis, testing that hypothesis, and then feeding that information back into the personas. Once I've gotten the results and I know that, for example, this is what worked and this is what impacted my visitors, I'm going to be feeding that information back into the personas.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. So we know where to begin. Now we have, are we jumping into our third case study in this case? So third case study, first one, 238% increase in conversions. Second one, 17% increase in conversions. Give us some background.
So background is this is a major online retailer for scrubs and medical materials.
Okay, very good. And what were we testing for them?
We were looking at their product pages, actually. Now, when we were looking at their product pages, what we wanted to consider was look at them from the personas perspective. We had actually gone through and created different personas for this particular website. We created, 6 different personas, and, each one with a name, with a job, with motivations, with trigger words that are going to impact them. And once we looked at, that particular, this retailer, and we took their personas, we took that page and we took it from the lens of those different personas and where they were actually coming from.
Okay, very good. So we said we created 6 different personas. How many personas do you create for a website typically on engagement?
We create anywhere between 4 to 7 different personas, depending on their target market, depending on how large their market is and how large their reach is.
Okay, and then you take each one of these personas, you put it, and you're evaluating each page from the perspective of the different personas. Now, I can imagine that this gets quite complicated because each of the personas comes with its own, the things that triggers its pains and its gains, and at the same time they're coming from different data source, from different sources, Google, somebody coming from social, somebody coming from email. So it can get quite cumbersome, but I can see how that will impact conversion optimization in a positive way.
What you're going to have to do, of course, Khaled, you have to remember is when I'm looking at the different personas and taking their different perspectives, I'm not going to be able to change every single thing on the page. However, I know that I want to appeal to this persona with this specific element, to this persona with this specific element. And of course, I have to test and hypothesize in order for me to confirm my hypothesis.
Very good. So with that, what was the hypothesis for this test?
By evaluating the page through the lens of the personas, by prioritizing the most important elements, conversions will increase.
Very good. So really good hypothesis, very tied directly to personas and how we optimize a page for personas. So with that, explain to us, give us some, kind of some thoughts around the first variation, the first challenger.
The first challenger, what we did was there was lots of, on the initial page, lots of clutter, lots going on. There were, so many different elements. What we wanted to make sure is that we clean the clutter. What we're trying to do is really increase the scent for, that impulsive persona that's going to move forward and make that purchase. We wanted to also move the cart to the right nav rather than they had it on the left navigation. And then we also removed the left navigation altogether. We felt that we didn't want to have the users navigate from this specific product page to another page. So, very completely different designs, and however, but we felt that we took all of the different concerns that the personas had, and we really translated that onto the page and considered their perspective.
Very good. So with that, we give our audience yet a third chance to participate with us, and we love to have these webinars highly interactive. That's the reason we come live with them. There's quite a bit of staff studio over here on standby. You can tweet at us at Invesp using the hashtag InvestCRO. You can use the chat feature in the GoToWebinar. And people are voting. The webinar attendees are voting between the original variation and the challenger. Special thanks goes out to our partners who make these webinars possible. 3M, Discovery, the Special Olympics. If you are watching this webinar on YouTube, that means you've missed the original airing of this webinar. So make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. I used to point down telling people to subscribe, and I thought our staff was putting the subscription link down. It turns out that they put it actually above our head, which is sort of funny. I'm pointing down, the subscription tag is above our head. But make sure that you subscribe. We come out with these videos now on weekly basis. There are new videos about conversion optimization. The goal is to create a community that loves, shares conversion optimization. With that, 80% of our webinar attendees are saying is design 1, and the winner is?
The design 2, the variation 1 actually is the winner with a 26% increase in conversions.
Nice, and this is for an e-commerce website, 26% on product pages. That is money you can take to the bank, 26% increase in your revenue. It's a lot different than increasing conversions, for example, on homepage, where if you get even a 50% increase on a main homepage, it's not going to translate into 50% increase in conversions. But on product pages, cart page, yes, you will see that really impact your bottom line directly, which is really very, very impressive. So how do you evaluate what personas impact on a website?
So really, and we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the webinar, is that in general, I could take a website, I can evaluate it, I'm going to evaluate the different navigational paths, I'm going to evaluate the headlines, I'm going to evaluate the copy, I'm going to evaluate all of these different aspects. However, when I take it through the lens of the personas, I'm just crystallizing it more. Now I'm evaluating it from Mike's perspective, who is impulsive. And I'm evaluating it from Jane's perspective, who is very logical. And I'm considering all of their different concerns and questions that they may have when they're looking at the page.
Very good. So in addition to that, you can look at the buying stages. Personas coming at different buying stages. That can get quite complex.
It can get complex. However, as they move forward throughout
the personas move with their temperaments.
Exactly. They move forward through the purchase process, through the different buying stages. They become less, necessarily effective. What I'm going to do is, for example...
Explain that to me, because you got me looking, how do the personas become less effective?
So what I'm saying, for instance, once they get to like a cart page, I can standardize the design a little bit more. I could standardize the look and the feel a little bit more. I don't necessarily have to cater to all their different questions because I've already locked them in. They've already clicked that add to cart and they've moved forward through the process. Initially, when I'm reeling them in, when I'm trying to get them to actually move forward with the purchase, that's when the impact is very big. That's when I really have to focus heavily on personas.
Very good. Excellent. So with that, we are going to jump into our third pop quiz. And with this quiz, we are seeing 3 different designs, 0, 1, 2. Give us some background about these designs before we open up the poll to our audience. And this is our 4th poll and the one just before last case study.
Exactly. So what we did with this particular page is, you see there's a long copy. The actual calls to action on the control were at the way bottom of the page. There was a video at the beginning, a headline, which again, sometimes for lots of different visitors, this has a very strong impact, a very positive impact. Variation 1, we moved the actual call to action to the top of the page, but kept the long copy, kept the video as well below the actual call to action. And then the second design, all we did was we shortened the copy, kept the video, but we placed the calls to action again and the benefits to really impact that visitor at the top above the video.
Very good. Excellent. And with that, we are going to open up a poll for our webinar attendees. This is your chance to participate. If you are watching the webinar recording on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you share this recording on different social networks, Facebook, Google+, on Twitter. Again, the goal is to create a community that loves, shares, enjoys conversion optimization. I want to remind everybody that the testing engine, our Pi testing engine, pii.invest.com, is available. Get yourself a free account. We are making the accounts free for life, and this is a very limited time offer. So it's an A/B testing engine. There is a whole bunch of new other tools that are going to be available, a whole bunch of white papers and ebooks that are specific to conversion optimization, landing page optimization, persona creation. All of these are going to be available to you after you subscribe to Pi, P-I-I, Plan, Implement, Improve, pi.invest.com. With that, people are voting, and let's take a look at the results. So with that, we are seeing, and the The votes are split almost like, 40% are selecting design 1, 60% selecting design 2. Sort of interesting that the video went down, and the winner is?
With a 55.56% increase in website conversions, actually design 2.
Oh, okay.
So again, targeted benefits that really appeal to that, the impulsive persona, appeal to the more logical persona as well, trying to, give them the information that they need. We also included a banner that was very targeted. The video works well sometimes. It depends on the website, depends on the service that you're offering, depends on the products that you're offering. However, you have to make sure that the video is very targeted as well, and it gives them the information that they need very quickly, and it's done and produced at a very high quality in order for it to have that impact.
So really nicely, 238% increase in conversions, 17%, 26%, 55% increase in conversions. Very impressive, and it's all optimization that is persona driven. Persona really, this helps us pinpoint the problem areas on the page and create hypotheses to fix these problems, and then you do A/B or multivariate testing, and you're able to really deliver amazing results. With that, I guess the question that you want to ask the audience: what type of persona do you think you are? Are you, what do you think? What type of persona are you?
I think that I'm between caring and I'm a little bit logical when it comes to making purchases. Things stay in my cart for a very long time. I mull over and think whether I want to move forward with the purchase. I compare a lot before I actually move forward. So I would put myself in that type of a category. Whereas you are, as you mentioned before,
highly impulsive,
right.
Maybe a bit aggressive as well. Definitely not caring. That temperament does not fit me when it comes to shopping.
You don't look at reviews.
I don't. Well, yeah, I do. But only caring. I think every type of temperament looks at or persona looks at reviews.
Right, but that is coming from from that temperament where you're looking and you're comparing and you're making sure that what are people saying in order because it's going to impact you.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on how it impacts you.
Yeah, it depends on the type of reviews, because if I see like this is the most amazing product, it's solved. I'm okay. I'm like I don't believe it, and I walk away. Right. But I think that's normal. People want to look for that objective review. Well, here are the pros and here are the cons. So it's kind of a mix between the two. How do you optimize for personas? Optimizing for personas.
So when I'm talking about optimizing for personas, I want to consider something called cognitive progression. Cognitive progression is important to consider because you want to consider the value, the investment, and the price of the actual product or service that you're offering. Depending on those, your persona temperaments specifically are going to change. Because if it's a high value, high investment, high price type of a product or service, the likelihood of your visitor really, making an impulsive decision is less. It's not impossible, and I'm not going to remove that possibility. However, it is going to be less. So I'm going to be designing considering that. You also want to make sure that you adjust the copy and design to maximize the response from pages serving multiple personas. Again, we're looking at a page, we're looking at the copy. When I'm targeting that copy, I'm looking at how many personas it's targeting. Then I'm also considering that personas are works in progress. We make assumptions all the time about the market. We create personas to match our assumptions. We test and continue to evolve them. You don't want to make sure that you just throw out personas and then you just leave them. You're always changing and adjusting your personas to match the target market. And then you have to remember that personas are generalization of demographic and psychographic and behavioral trends of your target market segments. So there are specific generalizations of those different trends. Keep those in mind when you're optimizing for personas.
Very good. Excellent points. And I've seen the different results that we've achieved until now with the different case studies. And you've been really liking to do 4 or 5 case studies for each one of these webinars. I think it makes it a really nice educational experience for our webinar attendees.
We're considering our target market and our personas.
Our personas as well. 238%, 17%, 26%, and 55% increase in conversion rates. We jump into the final case study for the webinar. And what are we looking at?
We're looking at 2 different designs. This is a service that offers almost like a podcasting service or an online radio service.
So the first design?
First design, we have the actual the actual form, and then we have below that the actual benefits. In the second design, we changed it completely and included the benefits immediately, considering again the different personas, targeting them with different messaging beforehand.
Very good. So we're seeing designs 1 and 2, and again we are opening up the voting for our webinar attendees. As you guys can see on the screen right now, we have the 2 designs, design 1 versus design 2. If you're watching this webinar on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you get yourself a free account. We are making our A/B testing account, the A/B testing accounts free for life, but this is a very limited time offer. You can go to pii.invest.com. Not only are you going to get access to the free A/B testing engine, but also you get access to a wealth of information, ebooks, you get white papers you download on landing page optimization, conversion optimization, you get information about creating personas for your website. There's just quite a bit of information, and the goal from all of this is to create a community around conversion optimization, a community that loves conversion optimization, shares conversion optimization. Make sure that you share this video with on your social networks, on Twitter, on Facebook, and Google+. And 73% at this point voted for design 2, and the winner is
design 2, actually, with a 90.67% increase in website conversion.
Oh, very impressive. You always like to keep one of these really amazing case studies, high case studies for the end. 90% increase in conversion rates. Really nice. Again, we've created that design based on personas. So with that, we want to wrap up the webinar. So give us a summary for the webinar, just a wrap up so people can remember personas and how they can implement them on their website.
So this is just the different marketing insights that you can take from this webinar. Number 1 is remember what personas are, that they're just examples, they're archetypes. They humanize and individualize your target market. You have different market segments, and really personas humanize them in order to make it easier for you to appeal to them. There are 4 main temperaments, and each persona you create will hold more than one temperament depending on the buying stage that they are at. Again, consider cognitive progression. You have to consider the value, the investment, the price of your product, because that's going to impact your personas and the temperaments and how much they're going to be impacted, and the design that you're going to be able to create to appeal to them. You want to adjust the copy and the design to maximize the response from the pages serving multiple personas. And then you have to remember that they're a work in progress. You have to continue to test in order to make sure that your personas are crystallized and that they are generalizations of your demographic, psychographic, and behavioral trends of your different target market segments.
Very good. Information-packed webinar. 238%, 17%, 26%, 55%, and 96% increase in conversions. Very, very impressive. I thank you for putting and for your staff for putting the material together. What is our next webinar going to be? And we have few messages, few important announcements for our webinar attendees, but what are we going to be talking about in our next webinar?
In our next webinar, we're going to be talking actually about different concepts, finding the concept, really conversion optimization framework element that's going to be working for your particular website, and seeing the benefits from that.
What kind of increases in conversions are we going to be looking at?
We're looking at anywhere from 17% to 200% increases in conversions.
Wow, very impressive. So even more and more amazing case studies. If you'd like to learn more about conversion optimization, make sure that you can always, of course, purchase our book on Amazon.com, Conversion Optimization, the Art and Science of Converting Prospects into Customers, and Amazon.com bestseller, one of the first, very first books written on conversion optimization. Also, if you'd like to work with Invest, if you'd like to become one of the partners that sponsor these webinars, or if you'd like to increase conversions on your website, we work with very few selected partners every year. Some of these partners we've been working with for many years. Go to our website, www.invest.com. There's a contact form that you can fill out over there, and we'll reach out to you, have a discussion with you, see if we can be of assistance or not. Until then, make sure that you follow our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. We're grateful to have the support of the community. Make sure that you check out the Invest blog, invest.com/blog. There, some of the posts there have been very, very popular with hundreds of shares on different channels. Until then, thank you for watching and happy testing.